No power in the verse can stop me.
And thus it came to pass, after conquering countless vampires, demons, and life-altering metaphors, the mastermind behind Mutant Enemy took to the stars. Not to save a galaxy far, far away, or boldly go where no one has gone before. He simply did it to be free, cause like the rest of us, he aims to misbehave. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Ever since I did my Buffy Honest review 2 years ago, people have been begging me to do one for Firefly, which is kind of funny, as most of you already know that I am a huge Joss Whedon fan. And likewise, I would love one of the absolute greatest shows that he has ever produced. So let's get started with a few excerpts from my Serenity Valley War Journal. Like most Firefly/Serenity fans, my introduction and subsequent loyalty to the show had a very rocky start. It was 2002, and my love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer had reached its zenith. At the time, I was lucky enough to have found a co-worker who was a fellow Buffy fan, and we would spend a great deal of time at our mundane day job discussing the adventures of our favorite vampire slayer. It was this particular friendly co-worker who was the first to make the suggestion for me to check out Firefly. She said that if I loved Buffy, then I would definitely like this show, as it was created by the same guy. I was very surprised to find out that Joss was the creator of Firefly, since Buffy and Angel was such great, action-packed, touching, thought-provoking shows. And judging by the way Fox was advertising Firefly, this show was anything but. I cannot put into words just how horrible and misleading the initial Firefly ads were. I initially intended to show them to you guys, but I can't find them anywhere. My personal theory on the absence of these ads on the internet is that there is a mass brown coat conspiracy preventing any of these ads to be posted in any public forum, out of fear that they might dissuade any potential fans from checking out the show. Yes, they are that bad. So, just to give you an idea as to how bad they were, here's my crude reconstruction of one of those infamous ads that almost stopped me from checking out Firefly. It's intergalactic adventure from the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, packed with space cowboys, a boy named Jane, a cosmic hooker, and a girl in a box. Firefly, it's out there. You might as well be walking on the sun. I wish I was exaggerating the shittiness of these ads, but believe me, I'm not. Luckily, my coworker was kind enough to inform me that the show was nothing like those terrible ads. And then she proceeded to describe the episode Jamestown to me. The episode sounded hilarious, so I decided right away to check out the show. So as soon as I got home that evening, I logged on to Fox's website, looked up their TV listings, and it said that Firefly was coming on Tuesday at 8 p.m. I tuned in Tuesday at 8 p.m. Football. They were showing football. Okay. I checked their TV listings again, and this time it claimed that Firefly was coming on the following week, only this time it was coming on Thursday at 8 p.m. I tuned in on Thursday at 8 p.m. Baseball. Now they were showing baseball. So I threw my arms up in the air and gave up on Firefly. A few months later, I was getting ready to go out and see a play, and I just so happened to have the TV on for background noise. And lo and behold, Firefly came on. This was it. This was the first time I ever caught a real glimpse of Firefly. The episode was Bushwhacked, which opens with the crew of the Serenity playing a very informal game of basketball. Yup, a sport. Maybe if Joss opened more episodes with the characters playing a sport, Fox would have actually put the show on when it was supposed to be fucking scheduled. Ugh. Point is, I had to leave my apartment soon, otherwise I was going to be late to the play. But the little bit of Firefly that I saw that day, I liked, and I definitely wanted to see more. Unfortunately, shortly after that, I found out that Firefly was cancelled after only 11 episodes. I wasn't surprised, since Fox wouldn't fucking show it. Ugh. The famous excuse for the cancellation of Firefly was that it had low ratings. Yeah, kind of hard to get ratings with shit advertisements and the most inconsistent time slot in TV history. In spite of Fox's immense negligence and incompetence with the promotion and distribution of Firefly, the show still developed one of the most loyal fan base throughout all of fandom. And its legend grew even more with its subsequent DVD release. Unfortunately, at the time I couldn't afford to rent or buy the show. I impulsively requested it as a Christmas gift, which was a very bold move as I hadn't seen the show yet, and I could have potentially wasted a gift opportunity on a DVD set that I might only watch once. But I'm happy to report that not only did I end up viewing the set more than once, but to this very day, I consider my request of Firefly as a Christmas gift one of the best decisions in my life. Now, let's start analyzing this space western with The Plot. The Earth that was got used up, so history repeats itself, as very much like in frontier times, humanity travels into the unknown in search of habitable lands. This time in the form of planets, most of which had to be terraformed. The central planets formed the Alliance, an amalgamation of the United States and China, the last two superpowers from the Earth that was. Their intention was to unify all the planets under one rule. Some folks disagreed with that. This is when the war began, between the Alliance and the Rebellion, or as they were later nicknamed, the Browncoats. Eventually the Alliance won the war at the Battle of Serenity Valley. Browncoats who survived were pushed out into the Outer Rim, where they struggled to survive by any means necessary. The story of Firefly follows the misadventures of a group of rebels on board the transport vessel Serenity, under the leadership of one of the last Browncoats, Captain Malcolm Reynolds. Things get even more complicated for our band of misfits when they accidentally pick up two Alliance fugitives, Dr. Simon Tam and his sister, River, a gifted young girl that the Alliance conditioned and brainwashed into being a living weapon. Their mission is simple: stay alive, stay free, and keep flying. Cast and characters. Whether you love or hate Firefly, the one element of this series that no one can deny is far superior to most works of fiction is the characters. The characters are awesome. Not a single member of the central cast serves as filler or cannon fodder. Each character serves an essential role in the grand scheme of things. It's hard to believe that at one point Joss only intended to have only 7 main characters. But as the development of the show went on, the cast grew to 9, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's start with the moral compass of the group. Shepherd Book, played by Ron Class. In a universe full of scoundrels, it's good to know that there is at least one good man around. Book is a priest who only wished to travel the universe and spread the word of God. Why exactly did he choose to travel on a ship full of career criminals and captained by a self-proclaimed atheist is beyond me, but it makes for good television.
If you take sexual advantage of her, you're going to burn in a very special level of hell. A level they reserve for child molesters and people who talk at the theater.
What? I am not. Preacher, you got a smutty mind.
He often works as the moral center and conscience of the group, as well as the voice of reason.
I think everybody could stand to calm down a bit.
This isn't your business, Shepard.
The boy's not going anywhere, lawman. As I understand it, it's pretty cold outside.
But the most fascinating aspect about the Shepherd is that he wasn't always a Shepherd. The mystery of Shepard's true identity and how he's so familiar with the Alliance's inner workings is one of the most enduring mysteries of all time.
It's of interest to me how much you seem to know about that world.
I wasn't born a shepherd, man.
You have to tell me about that sometime.
No, I don't.
One I'm sure they eventually would have answered if Fox hadn't canceled the fucking show! Sorry. Anyway, moving on. Dr. Simon Tam, played by Sean Marr. the brilliant doctor from the Central Planet who gives up a life of wealth and privilege to save his sister and go on the run. One of the many aspects that I love about this show is that there is not one character who's simply there to play the surrogate and ask all the dumb questions to facilitate the exposition. While Simon might not be very worldly and might need the occasional explanation,
What is that?
That's a post holer. You dig holes for posts.
he is also very smart and often delivers his own fair share of exposition. I love that while he might be a handsome genius, he's definitely not perfect.
Oh, plus, every other girl I know is either married, professional, or closely related to me, so you're more or less, you're literally the only girl in the world.
That's a hell of a thing to say.
I was joking.
Oh, no, I get it, I do. Back on Osiris, you probably had nurses and debutantes crawling all over you, but down here at the bottom of the barrel, it's just me.
No, that's not even...
I'm glad I rated higher than Dead Bessie here. Nagatsu Naimu, Tangmu, Shangmeimu.
River Tam, played by Summer Glau. Summer went from being a ballerina in an episode of Angel to having one of the most important roles in this show. I'm not sure what Joss saw in her, but I'm glad he saw it. While the Alliance might have brought her abilities to full potential, they also drove her insane in the process. River is as fascinating as she is unpredictable. She can be the crew's salvation one minute and their damnation the next. It is often debated as to why Mao, someone who openly loathes the Alliance and fights to avoid them at all costs, would keep someone on his ship who is often more trouble than she's worth. Personally, I've always felt that there was an unspoken kinship between the two. Mao looks at River and sees someone who is severely screwed over by the Alliance, just like him. So in his own weird, indirect way, he's trying to give River the help and support that he never got. One of my very few regrets about this franchise is that there were not more scenes between the two of them.
You know what the first rule of flying is? Well, I suppose you do, since you already know what I'm about to say.
I do. But I like to hear you say it.
Inara Sarah, played by Morena Baccarin. I can't believe that those stupid Fox ads simply referred to this character as the Cosmic Hooker. Inara is a companion, which is more like a geisha and nothing like a hooker. She is schooled at being the perfect company to almost anyone, not just sexually, but socially as well, armed with many skills that go far beyond just being arm candy.
Attack.
Most of the Central Planets wouldn't even allow a ship to come to port unless a companion is on board, so what she has with Mal is a symbiotic relationship. The funniest thing about her is that while she might be trained to be the perfect company, she still can't seem to get along with Mal.
Got a distress call coming in, some folks asking for help.
Really? Folks asking for help from us petty crooks.
Well,
Maybe I should take that right away.
well, it's for her.
Huh?
The call's for Inara.
I'll take it in my shuttle.
All right, I'll send it back there to you.
This distress wouldn't happen to be taking place in someone's pants, would it?
And yes, just like anyone who has eyeballs in his head, I can tell that there is a great deal of sexual tension between those two. And while the very few moments in the series that they actually showed some affection towards one another were very enjoyable, I never ever wanted them to get together, as their banter and their bickering was just far too enjoyable.
Mal, if you're being a gentleman, I may die of shock.
Have you got time to do my hair?
Out.
Kylie Fry, played by Jewel State. If there is one recurring theme in Joss's work, is that of the beautiful genius. But I believe Kylie still remains one of the most popular examples of this archetype.
What'd you do? She fixed it.
Most fans that I have ever had the great fortune of speaking to admit that Kylie is their favorite character. She is the adorable mechanic of Serenity. And in a den full of liars, Kylie always speaks the truth, which is often as refreshing as it is hilarious.
Going on a year now, I ain't had nothing twixt my nethers weren't run on batteries.
Oh, God. I can't know that. I could stand to hear a little more.
Believe it or not, the character of Kylie was originally supposed to be Chinese, but according to Joss, the second they saw Jules audition, no other actors were considered for the part. She just brings a fresh, beautiful honesty to this character that very few actors could. If Mal is the brains of the outfit, Kylie is most certainly the heart. And no, the metaphor of her being the one who keeps Serenity's engine, or heart, going is not lost to me. I love the recurring joke of Kylie having to explain mechanics to two grown puzzled men. Scenes like this always put a smile on my face.
This. I'm pointing right at it. Look where I'm pointing. Okay, that was real simple.
Jane Cobb, played by Adam Baldwin. He is the mercenary of the bunch, the useful but unpredictable lowlife who will stab anyone in the back if the price is right.
How come you didn't turn on me, Jane?
Money wasn't good enough.
What happens when it is?
Well, that'll be an interesting day.
He is the crude, muscle-headed simpleton who is great in a jam but terrible any other time.
Could you not do that while we're... ever?
Jane is the guy that anyone can understand. He wants to get paid, get laid, and get out of there. No morals, no heroics. He is very much a product of the hardships of the Outer Rim. His relationship with Shepard Book is worthy of psychological study. Here are two guys who are at opposite ends of the moral spectrum, and yet they get along smashingly.
I just direct my energy elsewhere.
You mean like masturbating?
I hope you're not thinking of taking orders yourself.
I've often theorized that this is because Shepard feels that Jane is the one who needs his guidance the most. Recently, however, a friend of mine brought up that maybe Shepard just relates to Jane more. Maybe before Shepard was a Shepard, he was a gun-toting badass, like the man they call Jane. Haben the Washburn, played by Alan Tudyk. Oh, the lovable comic relief and getaway man of the Serenity crew. What he lacks in toughness, he makes up for with witty comebacks.
I think maybe it poses some kind of threat to the Alliance.
Do we care? Are we caring about that?
In a universe filled with danger, destruction, and betrayal, Wash brings much-needed levity to the show, something that Alan Tudyk achieves with seamless effort.
Wash, tell me I'm pretty.
Were I unwed, I would take you in a manly fashion.
'Cause I'm pretty?
'Cause you're pretty.
But by far, Wash's most intriguing aspect has to be his relationship with Zoe Washburn, played by Gina Torres. The badass warrior woman and second in command aboard Serenity. And also, she just so happens to be Wash's wife.
Sir, I'd like you to take the helm, please. I need this man to tear all my clothes off.
Work.
Some people are confused by this and often make comparisons to Jessica and Roger Rabbit. But I kinda get it. Zoe has been surrounded by warriors and unsavory characters most of her life. And here's this charming, fast-talking smart aleck who feels nothing but genuine affection for her. So yeah, I get it. In my personal opinion, Firefly has the absolute best female cast members out of all of Joss's shows. Tough, talented, gorgeous, and dignified. For years, it was very difficult for me to choose a favorite Firefly gal. But if you twist my arm, I would have to go with Zoe. Unquestionably loyal and determined. She plays the role of den mother to the crew, and if you mess with her kin, she will retaliate.
Okay. I'm in.
Captain Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion. Mal is one of my top 10 favorite characters of all time. one of the very few characters in fiction that I relate to immensely. He starts out as a man who was devoted in his belief of freedom and equality. And in one horrible moment, his faith was shattered. So he starts to drift and make his own rules outside of Alliance control, following his own skewed code of ethics that only makes sense to him.
Keep the money. Use it to buy a funeral. It doesn't matter where you go or how far you fly. I will hunt you down, and the last thing you see will be my blade. Dark.
As far as I'm concerned, he is the best written anti-hero of all time. Cause he has no idea that he's the hero or just how much respect others have for him. He is such a well-rounded character, a complete buffoon one minute and the most dangerous man in the room the next. Cause when Mal goes dark, nobody sees it coming.
I'm not playing anymore. Anybody makes so much...
He's also one of the most realistic interpretations of a leader I've ever seen, always ready to make the hard choices and make any necessary sacrifices to ensure the survival of his crew, never stopping for a second to consider whether his orders will be popular ones. And that is what it's truly like to be a boss.
This is how it is. Anybody doesn't want to fly with me anymore, this is your port of harbor. There's a lot of fine ways to die. I ain't waiting for the Alliance to choose mine. I mean to confound these bungers. Take my shot at getting a Miranda. Maybe find something I can use to get clear of this. So I hear a word out of any of you that ain't helping me out or taking your leave, I will shoot you down. Get to work.
Before I move on from talking about the cast, I would like to mention that like the cast of TNG, most of which have done voices on gargoyles, most of the cast of Firefly have voiced characters in the DC animated universe. I guess it takes the most badass outlaws in the verse to voice the world's greatest superheroes.
Season 1.
This is when I would usually go through and give a brief overview of each of the seasons of the show. But since there were only 14 episodes of Firefly, I figured, what the hell? Why don't I just talk about all of them? So here we go, quick spoiler-free rapid-fire reviews of every single episode of Firefly, starting with Episode 1, Serenity. So the story goes that the network hated the pilot and refused to air it first, ordering Joss to shoot a second pilot. While I think that was a really shitty move on the network's behalf, and as much as I hate to admit it, I kinda see their point of view here. Joss promised an action-adventure space western. The pilot doesn't really fit that criterion. It's very slow and mellow. We start with a huge war scene, and then everything slows down to a crawl, in order to service a series of exposition-heavy scenes, with the occasional action sequence sprinkled here and there. This is the one and only Firefly episode that I'm not too crazy about. I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just never enthusiastic to rewatch it. But hey, out of 14 episodes there's only one I don't love unconditionally. I'd say those are pretty good odds. So yes, I get Fox's displeasure, but I still think that it's bullshit that didn't air this episode first, as every essential facet of the Firefly universe is established here, including Joss Speak, the very unique language of the Firefly universe, which is a very specific mashup of Westerny Southern English and Mandarin Chinese. The characters will often trail off in Chinese, combine words from both languages,
She must have been such a stone-cold Zhang Zisha during the war.
or get away with using very vulgar curse words on network television by simply saying them in Chinese.
Oh, gossip.
Interesting fact, originally in the pilot it was Rebecca Gayheart who was casted as Inara Serra. But midway through the pilot, it was realized that she just wasn't right for the part, and she was replaced by Morena Baccarin. This, I feel, was a great decision. I don't have anything against Rebecca Gayheart, but Morena is just a better actor. Anyway, this may not be the best episode, but it's definitely an essential one, which should have received more respect from Fox.
Are you always this sentimental?
Had a good day.
You had the Alliance on you. Criminals and savages. Half the people on the ship have been shot or wounded, including yourself. And you're harboring known fugitives.
Oh, we're still flying.
That's not much.
It's enough.
Episode 2, The Train Job. After the dreary feedback of the first episode, Joss and Tim Minear took Firefly back to the drawing board and restructured the second episode to work as a possible pilot, with the characters overtly stating their roles out loud simply for the benefit of the audience.
Are you getting my wife into trouble? Hey, none of us want the alliance on us, Doctor. That's why you're here.
As the crew goes on a very standard train robbery. Now this is the episode that made me fall in love with the show, as the Western aesthetic was emphasized a lot more, the pacing was better, and official villains were established, in Nishka and the Blue Hands.
2 by 2 hands of blue.
And Mal's dubious code of ethics was explored even further.
Now what are you gonna do about it? Nothing. I just want you to face me so she could get behind you.
If you're like me and you found the pilot underwhelming, stick around for the second episode. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Time for some thrilling heroics.
Episode 3, Bushwhacked. Yup, after trying 3 times to watch this episode on Fox, I finally got to see it on DVD. And it did not disappoint. This time around, the Serenity crew runs across the wake of one of the most vile and perverse evils in the verse, the Reavers. Savage, mutilated cannibals that kill, eat, and rape everything in sight. Everyone fears the Reavers. Everyone.
If they take the ship, they'll rape us to death, eat our flesh, and sew our skins into their clothing. And if we're very, very lucky, they'll do it in that order.
After discovering a ship that was pillaged by them, our heroes soon realize that there is a Reaver among them. This of course happens in the middle of a random alliance check, so the episode becomes a creature feature, with the monster loose somewhere aboard their ship. I challenge you to watch this one with the lights off.
Jane, drop what you're doing and get to the engine room. I want you to take Kaylee and the doctor off his boat. Don't ask questions.
Episode 4, Shindig. All the while crashing a high society party in order to secure a job with a potential employer, Mal accidentally picks a fight with a trained swordsman.
If you require it, any gentleman here can give you use of a sword.
Use of a sword?
So Inara has just a few hours to teach Mal to wield a blade. Otherwise, Serenity will find herself without a captain.
How did I avoid that?
By being fast like a freak?
This is yet another episode in which Mal's very questionable code of ethics is readdressed.
You know that? They teach you that in Whore Academy?
You have a strange sense of nobility, Captain. You'll lay a man out for implying I'm a whore, but you keep calling me one to my face.
I might not show respect to your job, but he didn't respect you. That's the difference.
Not to mention that this is one episode where Nathan Fillion's chemistry with Morena Baccarin shines very brightly.
Are you in pain?
Absolutely. I got stabbed, you know, right here.
I saw.
Episode 5, Safe. Simon and River are kidnapped by a town in desperate need of a doctor. And this happens right as Shepard Book is mortally wounded during a deal gone south. This is when we get our first taste of the Shepard's mysterious past.
Get this man to the infirmary at once.
Boy, I wish this show would have gone on, so they would have expanded upon this, but c'est la vie.
Here's the guy there just in the nick of time. What does that make us? Big damn heroes, sir.
Episode 6, Our Mrs. Reynolds. After celebrating a successful job, Mal finds out that he accidentally married a beautiful redhead during the festivities.
How drunk was I last night?
I don't know, I passed out.
Unable to turn back due to possible alliance trouble, the crew is forced to take Mal's new blushing bride with them. Hilarity ensues.
Oh, I'm gonna go to the special hell.
The special hell.
Of course, there is more to it than just accidental nuptials and jokes at Mal's expense, but I don't want to give anything away. All I'll say is that Christina Hendricks is awesome in this.
Is there any more where that came from?
I didn't think to make enough for your friends. But everything's laid out if you'd like to cook for your husband.
Yeah. Isn't she quaint? I'm just not hungry.
Episode 7, Jamestown. The first Firefly episode I knew anything about, and it lives up to the legend. Our heroes make port on a backwater planet in order to buy mud.
Clay, really. You'd be surprised how many things it ends up in. Serenity's got more than a few ceramic parts in her.
When they suddenly come upon this.
Jay?
Yeah?
You want to tell me how come there's a statue of you here looking at me like I owe him something?
Wishing I could, Captain.
Yes, Jane Cobb, the lying, cheating scumbag of the bunch, is considered to be a legendary folk hero in this town.
Jane? Jane Cobb? You're talking about Jane Cobb?
Yes, Jane Cobb, the hero of Canton. The only person I ever saw who stood up to my father.
Of course, the real circumstances by which these people believe this are insanely funny, and I dare not give them away. This is a very entertaining and touching episode, which unexpectedly ends up adding a great deal of depth to the character of Jane. But the most important part of this episode is that Jane is the only member of the Serenity crew to have his own theme song.
Jane,
here's your tomato.
The man they call Jane.
Robbed from the rich and he gave to the poor. Stood up to the man and he gave him what for. Our love for him now ain't hard to explain.
The hero of Canton, and they call me.
We gotta go to the crappy town where I'm a hero.
And they call
Episode 8, Out of Gas. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say this aloud, because I believe it with every fiber of my being. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best episode of the entire show. It's the kind of brilliant writing that I aspire to and admire. After a bartering deal gone wrong, Mal is shot and left for dead in an empty and abandoned Serenity. As he slowly bleeds to death, his life flashes before his eyes, and not only do we get to see the events which led to his current dilemma, but we also get to go further back in Mal's timeline, and actually see the moments in which he recruited each of the members of Serenity's crew.
You move on over to this side, we'll not only show you where the stuff's at, we'll see to it you get your fair share. Not no sad 7.
Private room?
Jane! Your own room, full one of the kitchen, whole shot.
Jane, I ain't asking.
Shut up.
A bigger room.
All the way back to the pivotal day that he decided to buy his beloved ship. When anyone asks me to recommend or show them an episode of Firefly, this is the one that I always refer them to. Yes, it's that good. Will Mal survive, or does this take place further in the future, where we get to see our captain draw his last breath? You'll have to check it out to find out.
Just, feel around with the dials there. We'll be nearby. Great, ain't he?
I don't like him.
What?
Just something about him bothers me.
Episode 9, Ariel. It's the Ocean's 11 episode. Simon desperately needs to break into an Alliance hospital so he can use their equipment to determine just what the Alliance did to River's brain. But he's going to need help, so he persuades the Serenity crew to help him by offering them the plans and knowledge on how to rob the hospital of medicine that they can sell in the outer planets. My favorite sequence in this episode is when Simon is coaching Mal, Jane, and Zoe on how to talk like EMTs, and Mal lets out my favorite Chinese phrase.
Dilapidated. Dilated. Shiny.
Just in case you're wondering, it roughly translates to frog-humping son of a bitch. Man, the Chinese are like poets. Also, this is one of the only episodes where we get to see the Blue Hands in action.
Did your men also speak with them?
Much as they had to.
Episode 10, War Stories. This is my favorite episode. I'm not claiming it's the best, it's just my personal favorite. All the while trying to sell the medicine from the aerial job, Mal and Wash are ambushed and kidnapped by Nishka, the same villain from the train job episode, who then proceeds to torture them for his own pleasure. A lot of deep-seated issues between Mal and Wash come out to the surface, while we find out just what kind of a man Mal is, and why he is the captain and no one else.
He wouldn't break, Zoe. He kept me from... I wouldn't have made it. Nishka's gonna kill him.
He's gonna make it last as long as possible. Days if he can.
Bastard's not gonna get days.
I love this episode, not just for the ingenious character development.
Not so. There's plenty orders of mine that she didn't obey. Name what? She married you!
But also because this is the first episode where we truly see the crew openly risk their lives to save Mal. Keep in mind, Mal is not officially anyone's boss. He's nothing to them. Any one member of Serenity's crew can choose at any moment to leave the ship. But here we see these brave band of misfits rally together for the man who looks after them, even though it's not his job to do so. And it is one of the most inspirational moments in the entire series.
Jane. There's something the captain has to do for himself.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Episode 11, Trash. This is the Ocean's 12 episode, only this time things go horrifically wrong.
Yeah. That went well.
I would talk more about this episode, but that would mean giving away the ending of Our Mrs. Reynolds. So let's just say that this episode is a great sequel to a great episode.
There are plenty of worlds where both of us could work. We used to visit them, remember?
Ichi Shonhushi. Are you saying I'm doing this deliberate? On account of you? Is there some reason I want you off the job?
I'm not accusing you of anything, Mal.
Hey, no, let's set a course for the planet of the lonely, rich, yet appropriately hygienic man. I'll tell Wash, we can park there for a month.
Episode 12, The Message. Mal and Zoe are tasked with taking the dead body of a fellow browncoat back to his home planet for his burial. But of course, things aren't what they appear. As their formerly corpseified pal, Tracy, is actually on the run from some very unsavory fellows. Action-adventure ensues, and most everyone's views of death come to the surface.
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, River, that might not be the best place to...
Very comfortable.
But the true highlight of this episode is the hat.
Man walks down the street in that hat, people know he's not afraid of anything.
Damn straight.
That stupid bright orange knit cap is to Firefly what the red fez is to Doctor Who. Jane only wears it in one episode, and it is one of the most iconic items associated with the series.
That makes you look like an idiot.
Episode 13, Heart of Gold. The Serenity crew is called in to help a whorehouse in danger. You heard me right.
They're whores.
Thought you didn't much care for that word.
It applies. They're not registered with the guild. They're...
Independent?
Yes.
A big part of the amusement of this episode is seeing everyone's different views on sex.
Shepard?
No, thank you.
My John Thomas is about to pop off and fly around the room. There's so much tasty in here.
Would be you get your most poetical about your pecker.
This is also the one and only episode where we get to see Mal open up romantically, a side of him that is generally unseen.
No one's gonna force you to go, Jane. As has been stated, this job is strictly speculative.
Good. Don't know these folks. Don't much care to.
They're whores.
I'm in.
Episode 14, Objects in Space. And thus we come to the final episode produced for the series, which sees bounty hunter Jubal Early, played by my main man Richard Brooks from Good vs. Evil, board Serenity in mid-flight, and stalk the halls of the ship while the crew sleeps in search of River. This one is a real nail-biter. Tensions are really high as Jubal gets closer and closer to either finding River or hurting another crew member. While this was not the ideal episode to end the show with, it was also not a bad one. Life after Firefly. So Firefly was cancelled and that was that. There was nothing anyone could do, or so we thought, as Joss and his crew done the impossible, and somehow got a Firefly movie greenlit. Just in case you didn't understand me the first time, I'm going to say this again plainly. Joss Whedon got a deal to produce a movie adaptation based on a failed TV series that hardly anyone saw. That, my friends, is why he is the boss.
Nothing like a major motion picture to make you feel a little bit better about having your TV show canceled.
Redemption.
So with this, we come to Serenity. The trailer to this movie was awesome, and there was no way in hell I was going to miss it. But to be perfectly honest, when I went to see it, I had zero expectations. I just wanted to see my favorite characters again. The movie opened strong, re-establishing all the necessary exposition that was laid out in those existing 14 episodes, swiftly and efficiently in just a matter of minutes. And then it happens. The title sequence begins, and we get to see Serenity fly again. On the big screen, with all the cinematic glories she deserves, as she lights up the silver screen, and I have to admit, I cried. I cried like a little girl that skinned her knee. It was such a strange emotion. It was like seeing a good friend again whom you were convinced had died. I usually watch movies with a great deal of jaded skepticism, but in that one beautiful moment of seeing my favorite spaceship taken to the sky again, with Mal and Wash together on the bridge, I had no doubt in my mind that what I was about to see was going to be awesome. I get requests to do an honest review of Serenity almost on a weekly basis, a request that I've hesitated to grant out of blind hope that Joss will one day do a sequel to this great film, and then I would be able to commemorate the event with my greatly delayed honest review. Posting this video is not intended as a sign that I've given up on a continuation to Serenity, but as an excuse to revisit old friends and talk about one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. The plot. The film picks up where the show left off, with the Serenity crew pulling off the occasional shady job to make ends meet. Only now, the Alliance has accelerated their efforts to capture the towns, broadcasting subliminal messages to River on public waves to trigger her physical conditioning. And they have retired the Blue Hens and brought in the Operative, a badass sword-wielding agent of the Alliance who will stop at nothing until Rivertown is dead. Mal and the crew have to make a choice: go on the run for the rest of their lives, or confront an impossible enemy.
So no more running. I aim to misbehave.
Favorite character. As stated before, my favorite character is Mal, and nothing exemplifies why more efficiently than this film. With the weight of the Alliance coming down on him, Mal has to make the hardest choices he has ever had to make in order to keep his crew alive. And I also love the juxtaposition between Mal and the Operative. The good guy who has no clue he's a hero, and the villain who freely admits that he's evil.
Malcolm, I'm a monster. What I do is evil. I have no illusions about it, but it must be done.
Favorite line. Firefly is a franchise that is jam-packed with t-shirt-worthy witty one-liners, so it's extremely difficult to pick just one great line, when nearly every scene has one.
This is the captain. We have a little problem with our entry sequence, so we may experience some slight turbulence and then explode.
Faster, faster, faster will be better!
You can't make me angry.
Please spend an hour with him.
But I'm going to have to give this to my favorite folk hero, who has a tendency for saying lines worthy of any movie trailer.
Shiny. Let's be bad guys.
Favorite scene. This is another difficult choice, as nearly every scene in this movie is gold. The bank robbery, the barroom brawl, Mal's first encounter with the Operative. But I'm going to have to go with the final battle. From Wash flying Serenity through the Alliance blockade, to the shootout, to River taking on the Reavers on her own, to Mal's brutal fight scene with the Operative, no one handles a climactic ending better than Joss.
Do you really think any of us are going to get through this?
I might.
Final verdict. I'm often asked by non-brown coats why Serenity fans are so devoted. Why we feel so strongly about a show that only lasted 14 episodes in one miraculous movie. To them, I say this. The show's appeal lies in its simplicity. There's nothing overly complex about Firefly. There are no aliens, space anomalies, time travel, or any high-concept sci-fi tropes plaguing our heroes. They're simply a group of folks trying to get by in a universe full of bad guys, and they have no clue that they are the heroes. 9 people looked into the black, and they each saw something different. Now that is shiny. 10 points on the badassitude meter. I recommend this one to everyone. It's available for streaming on Netflix, but I highly suggest you buy the DVD set, as I strongly believe that every household should own a copy of Firefly.
Joss, the man they called Joss. He wrote about spaceships and shepherds and whores, stood up to the networks and gave them what for. Fox canceled his program, but that was their loss. The creator of Firefly, the man they call Joss. Now here is what separates Firefly from other shows you're likely to see. It's meaningful and witty, and the setting's really gritty, and the theme song's about serenity. It's a little like a Western, yeah! It's a little like X-Files. It's better than Trek, and it's funnier than Shrek, and it beats out Andromeda by miles. He wrote about spaceships and shepherds and whores, stood up to the networks and gave them what for. Fox canceled his program, but that was their loss. The creator of Firefly, the man they call John.